Hello and welcome to another video by Rick Miracle. Me, in my series Freemasonry and Satanism. This is series number 119, part 3. Things have been evolving. I've been pondering and thinking about things and trying to get it right up here. What the heck is going on in the world now? April 5th, Wednesday, 2017. My course of investigation is taking me to places I would have never thought of. But it seems to be coming together. So what were the Phoenix journals? Where can you find them? I think those are very important questions. A mountain of information. About 120 books, if you want to call them books. They seem like they're pamphlets by their description. But when you check out the pages, 150 pages, 200 pages, 250 pages, or more, they're books. And apparently they're documented evidence of certain persons, and maybe some kind of influence from interdimensional beings, angels, watchers. I don't know. Very bizarre. Just proves to be a very interesting conversation whenever I go look at one of the Phoenix journals. I've poked at them over the last 10 years, and so I finally decided it needed its own series number and name in my Freemasonry and Satanism series, which is so appropriate for this series as my investigation develops and unfolds. It has everything to do with Jesus, Zionism, secret societies, and so much more. The Anunnaki, Nibiru, Planet X, fear-mongering, pole shifting, crazy climate change, global warming, global freezing, ice ages, volcanoes, comets, asteroids, changes on the planet, droughts, flooding. What's really going on? What are the forces behind this? God? Evil entities? Aliens? Anyways, you can look these up. There's how you spell it. And you can see that list there. I'll just hold these up for a second and move on to my reading. But there's a list of 8 books. There's 2 good websites that seem to have them all there. You can download by PDF. Here's another. The one I'm going over is the Mossad Connection, highlighted in yellow there. So these are just the pages you'll find if you look up the Phoenix journals on the internet. Like I said, free. End of the Masquerade, Matter, Antimatter, and What's the Matter? Seems like the author or authors have a sense of humor. Burnt Offerings and Blood-Stained Sands. Human, the Science of Man, Pleiades Connection, the Pleiadian aliens. Believe it or not. Sex and the Lottery. Satan is alive and well on planet Earth on the bottom there. The Phoenix Journals. I can't emphasize it enough. I think it would take a person a lifetime if you could go through all that material. The Beast at Work. Coalescence. Candlelight. Reality has a drum beat. Just making a point how many of these books there are. Again, downloadable PDF free on the internet. Birthing of the Phoenix, 1, 2, 3, 4. Rise of the Antichrist, 1, 2, 3, 4. Up to the bottom there. That says 230. So I don't know how many books there are. 230, 120? And the other website, that one website shows the titles like this with the lines. The website that I like best shows the books like this. And if you click on the book or it says PDF, you can download it. I guess that's a fascinating piece of research. So you can see how they show you the pages. And the link I'll show on this video, save you a second or two. But it shows you on the bottom there, 4winds10.com, journals, HTTP, 4winds10.com journals. Phoenix Journals. Little FYI about the word phoenix. Apparently phoenix is some kind of bird. And when the phoenix rises, as you can see here in this picture, notice the triangle. Notice the triangle on the back of the $1 bill over the eye. Notice the triangle. And the eye. Look at the eye. Is somebody telling us something? The Phoenix Journals. Well, anyways, the story is the phoenix rises and lives to a long age. And eventually, it has to be burnt to ashes. In flames. See the eye, the pyramid? So that a new phoenix can be born. You have to burn the old phoenix, which lives to a very long time. Anyways, the story is, it's kind of bizarre. My story, a story. Eurovision. Like the American Idol program with the competing singers. Eurovision. If you don't know about that, look it up. 2014, the winner was Conchita Wurst. Wurst means a sausage, a male part. Conchita means a female part. And Conchita Wurst, the singer, had the head dressed up with long hair and a beard like Jesus, and a silky dress and a slim figure below like a woman. Male, woman, androgynous. Well, the devil's also known as androgynous, half male, half female. And of course we have the rainbow agenda, the transgenderism, the homosexuality, the gay rainbow stuff. All being propagated, propaganda, forced on all of us in the world. Somebody's bringing about a big change. Anyways, in the Eurovision contest 2014, Conchita Wurst won the contest singing the song The Phoenix Rising, which has the words, "You can't stop us." And remember, they have to burn the phoenix to bring about a new phoenix, a new age, a new world order, a new paradigm, a new reality. Are they telling us that all of humanity has to be destroyed? And who's going to be part of this new reality? I have a couple answers that may be a little spooky. We'll start with this book. Anunnaki and Nibiru. Look at the planets. Look at the hieroglyphics there in Egypt, the beings. Think about Zachariah Stitchin's videos I've been making on these issues. And these Phoenix journals have been a valuable source of material for me. And as you know, I go the extra mile. And when one document or book references something, or a video, or a magazine, whatever, website, I go buy it and I read it. I want to know. I've been reading this, By Way of Deception. Just to let you know, I've been reading it. You can see my highlighted portions there. So a Mossad agent, an Israeli CIA, FBI type, MI6 in England, so the secret services, the Mossad agents, which even have agents who are assassins. I've been wanting to say this, but it appears to me there is a war on. World War III is on. And I think World War III, World War II, and World War I are all one big war. We've been at war for a long time, but probably pretty consistent for a couple hundred years. Before the French Revolution and before, there is this machine pushing forward, trying to burn down the phoenix, the existing paradigm we live in. But anyways, a secret agent tells all what inside the Mossad, Israel, the secret services, and what they're up to. And they are, in my opinion, attacking humanity. And they do have assassins. And it is a war. And if you're fighting a war, you fight to win. It's a battle for planet Earth and a new paradigm. And whoever gets in the way of the Zionist program for a world domination, and any kind of a serious threat, could very well be assassinated. And we all know a lot of presidents and a lot of people, President John Kennedy, and many others were assassinated, including researchers and authors for books like this guy. They tried to ban the publication of this book. Another author, I was watching a video on a book I'm reading. I'm reading about 3 or 4 books at the same time right now. Like I said, the paradigm, my perception and understanding is evolving every day. And it's kind of crazy. You know, when I read from the Phoenix journals, it just connects the dots. Atomic bomb secrets. Just think about that. Israel has the atomic bomb. They got it through espionage. I've been reading this book. Page 59, you can see. There's a lot to learn here. Just think about it. Israeli agent telling all. Another person learns the inside secrets, atomic bomb secrets. Israel obtained the bomb through espionage. They control America. Prime Minister Sharon of Israel, in a heated argument in the Israeli Congress, said when people told him Israel had to stop doing what it was doing, or the United States might cut off the funding, or do other things, and he screamed, "Don't worry about America, we control America." Think about that. Was he telling the truth? Is this guy telling the truth, the Israeli spy? Is what is in this book true? Why the propaganda about Nibiru, Planet X? And if they do control America, they're trying to bring about a new paradigm and to reduce the population, kill off non-Jews. They call Gentiles, and a more nastier word is goy or goim, which means cattle. And I've read in some of my previous research and talked about it in a previous video. They think that we non-Jews, our spirits come from some kind of demons. And just a little recap here, just so people know. Series 118, you can go look this stuff up, my videos, was the Encyclopedia Judaica on Zionism. I intend to make more on that. It should be explosive. 117 was Beyond the Light and Freemasonry. The 116 was on the Book of Enoch. I'm going to be doing another video on that right away. And then the one before that was Encyclopedia of Occult Magic. I'll be examining that further. The one before that was the Dead Sea Scrolls. We'll be looking at that and making another video or two. The Jewish Ritual Murder was 111. And 112 was The Story of Jesus by Edgar Casey. So my point is, I've been making some very explosive videos. And if you put it all together, get a big chart on the wall and start plugging in the names of my videos, the books I went over, it reveals a very interesting picture. I just got this book in the mail yesterday. Look at this. I make chemtrail videos. Sky spraying is what I call it, because that's what they're doing. And you call up the pest control company. The guy comes with a big canister on his back, and he goes around your house, and he sprays along the walls, inside and out, trying to kill the bugs. He's spraying chemicals. And those planes in the sky, they fly back and forth and do circles and S's and loops. And they're dumping out chemicals. They're spraying we the people like we're bugs. You can't make this stuff up. You can go buy the books. I just got it in the mail yesterday. Unbelievable. I can't wait to read this book and make a video. Here's one of the pictures in the book. They spray the chemicals that thick. Go get the book. Don't believe me. I just want to wake people up. Alright, I did say something a moment ago. I said that the Phoenix Journals here, that I've been going over, mention different books or magazines, resources of material, and I go look it up. I go the extra mile. And a couple books or documents that I mentioned in the previous number 3, part 2 of this particular 119 series, Phoenix Journals number 20, it mentioned Insight magazine. So I ordered it in the mail. So when you read the Phoenix Journals and it mentions magazines like this is dated February 11th, 1991. It's important I mention all this before I start reading from the Phoenix Journal for part 3, just so you know to the lengths I go through and went through to kind of make sure I got it right up here. So I've been reading this. I'm about halfway through. Seems to be really fine paper. 64 pages. TV war coverage run amok. About the attack on Iraq before 9/11, before 1991. This book magazine cost $2 back then. Insight in the News. And TV war coverage run amok. You can't make this stuff up. They are deceiving us to the nth degree. We don't know what to believe on anything. So anyways, a few of the articles I've already read. The lessons of war lie in the wait. The Iraq War, that the first president, George Bush, initiated, accomplished, bombing the smithereens out of... Right now we're using air power as artillery. That's a mistake. Air power should be used as a lever. Remember, this is 1991. Look at some of the pictures on the articles I've been reading. Missile launchers. So back in 1991, so you know 9/11 was obviously... The issue of POWs and war crimes is an old one. They're even accusing Assad in Syria now of gassing his own people. Syria is about to fall. And it looks like the whole world is posturing to go into Iran and also bring about some revolutionary economic destruction in America and the world, so that they can cause an internal revolution like here in the United States. The government against the people. Plans seem to be set. The equipment's in place. The FEMA camps are ready. There's sky-spraying chemicals in the sky. They could put any kind of chemical they want to in the sky tomorrow. Today. So I went back in 1991. Making noise, not wars. It was really interesting to read these articles and see what people were saying back in 1991. Stop Saddam. And interestingly enough, Saddam was armed and supported by the United States, NATO, when he was doing favors for them to continue to help destroy Arab countries and the Palestinian people, to basically depopulate the entire Middle East. But as Saddam Hussein learned, so Gaddafi in Libya, so is Sadat in Syria right now, so is the leader of Egypt, etc., etc., etc. When these people assist the NATO and the USA, basically controlled, like Prime Minister Sharon, the Prime Minister of Israel, said, by Israel, the Zionist New World Order folks control all of our leaders, if you don't know that. And they control the media, and they're lying to us. These magazines prove it, as you will see momentarily when I start reading. Arabs are up in arms in 91. Just think about that. Jordanian woman here. What's interesting when I look at these women from Iran, Jordan, anywhere in the world, I notice they look like people we see here in the streets of the USA, even in Europe. Their DNA, their facials, they look like people you know. Gore may be maneuvering for another presidential run. These people are all elitist. Part of secret societies. The propaganda they feed us is all lies. We all know now, Gore became President Bush's vice president. So I want you to know that caretakers of the final homecoming. They were bringing back bodies back then. A familiar scene at Dover, though one that won't be seen during the Gulf War. They're not telling us the truth. So I've got a lot more to read on this particular magazine. You can go on Abe Used Books, probably other used book sites, and find old issues. I'm just saying, back in 1991, they knew things, but the general public was kept in the dark. Another thing that was mentioned in this particular issue number 20 of the Phoenix Journal that I've been making these past two videos, Series 119, Part 1, Part 2, it also mentioned the Spotlight newspaper. Indicted war criminal Kissinger. This is January 19th, 1981. You're not going to believe what I read from this. Here we go. You're not going to believe it. Says Zionism there. Kissinger, acting as Reagan's agent, backs war Zionism in Middle East. People don't want to believe the Reds, the communist sympathizers, unsettled by successful anti-Castro group. This thing going on in the world has been going on a long time. It was quite the newspaper to read when I got this. I have to be careful. It came in a nice little cellophane wrapping to protect it. Here's one interesting. The IRS was charged with harassment. So here's a book that was for sale, The Mark of the Beast, back in 1981. So anyways, I've been reading this stuff, furthering my education about what's going on. I'm going to read a little bit of that, articles from this magazine, newspaper. War with Iran. Do you see the cover of this back in 1981? And they're moving equipment and troops all over the world right now. Iran is next. This is 2017. Does anybody not believe why they did 9/11? And the powers that be, like the Pentagon, NATO, not the USA people or European people, we're all kept in the dark. But they've been wanting Iran, and I've been studying, and it has something to do with ancient religions, this New World Order and New Age. I've made videos on these books here, just further showing some of the evidence and proof I have. This is just the tip of the iceberg. This is Series 119. That's 119 series in my videos since 2013. And many of them I made, like on the Blue Lodge Freemasonic Handbook, I made 12 two-hour videos. Hitler and the Third Reich, I think I made 6 2-hour videos. So when you add up the hours, and this is series 119, extrapolate the math, if I would not be surprised if I have 500 hours of documentaries out there and over 300 videos. A lot of them are 2 hours each. I average 2 hours to an hour and a half a video. I don't know why. I just go until I get worn out when I'm speaking. And I seem to get burnt out when I approach about 2 hours of talking in one day. But this book was a mind blower, and the videos I made, I think I made 3 2-hour videos. It was Robert Williams, The Ultimate World Order, Robert Williams, as pictured in the book The Jewish Utopia. Published, publications 1957. This goes back. People knew what was going on a long time, and they've been trying to tell us. So anyway, somebody discovered in the Library of Texas a secret book called The Jewish Utopia. Just like to find a picture here. The Jewish Utopia in a Texas library that only selected people were allowed to check out, read, and study. Robert Williams was a retired military, Secret Service, and started his own publication when he retired. So he was an educated military man in the Secret Service of the United States. So he knew what he was talking about. The Ultimate World Order. So he read The Jewish Utopia. He tells all. I've made videos on it. You can go watch it. I read everything. Explain it in series number 67. This says 67.3 up here. So when I do a video on a book, I know where I start reading from and where I end, and that'll be part 1. And then it says here, powerful, vigorous, and proud white race to stand united in significant strength to resist the Jewish movement, which still has the inspiration and power of tribal unity. The Jewish Utopia. My series 67, 3 2-hour videos. If that's not enough. The Protocols of Zion. That would be my series number 8. And it's, I told you, they call us goyim, which means cattle. It says it right here. You can get this free online. There's the word goyim. Protocol 1. It is the instruction manual how they're going to deceive us and lie to us, kill us and enslave us. They don't like Christians. They don't like Jesus. Protocols of Zion. You can get it PDF free online. Alright, I took the time out just to show you where I got information from, what I went and purchased that I read in the Phoenix Journal, just that little tidbit I read so far, in the newspaper here about 1981, war with Iran, 1991, war with Iraq. Something's coming. Might behoove us to wake up. Alright, let me get reading on some of the Phoenix Journal to do this video, part 3. The journal number 20 called the Mossad Connection. I showed you the pictures. All right, war declarations. Here we go. World War III is coming, if it's not already here, but most of us don't know it. Equipment is in place. I've been watching some explosive material on that going on now. There's a website called already-happened, alreadyhappened.com. But there's a dash between already and happened. Somebody's paying attention. They're moving troops over there in Russia, Lithuania, all over the world, in Jordan, United States. Ships are moving into place today. April 5th, 2017. That's no small thing to say. But go look at Already Happened. Go look at any one of the numerous alternate news websites. Even a lot of stuff is in the mainstream now on regular TV during a program I was just watching today, Wednesday, after coming back from my trip to Florida. They were talking about Assad in Syria blowing up a Syrian gas facility, gassing his own people. So they're trying to make us people here in the United States and the world to believe that is really what Assad is doing. So when they continue to destroy Syria, take out Damascus, that the people will go along like with 9/11. Meanwhile, of course, they're spraying us with chemicals every day. I made a video on that, just released it today. Sky spraying by Rick Miracle, my Florida trip, April 2nd to the 4th, 2017. I just released it. I think within an hour I had 8 views and 1 thumbs up. What have I got now? Looking at the computer. I got 5 comments, 1 thumbs up, and 8 views. I just posted it at 11:30. It's now 4:25. So there are people paying attention. There are people writing books that are trying to blame Assad for gassing his own people in the news today on public TV. And we have our own government gassing us with chemicals sprayed in the sky. Chemicals in the sky would equate to gas, right? They're spraying us like we're roaches. World War III is here. Israeli spy agency caught. I've been doing all this research that I read from material on the Phoenix Journals, as you can see. And consequently, I even ordered the book, which I've been reading, as you can see. And apparently the Israelis, these people with the Zionist New World Order, New Age, doing the gay agenda and all that, are not above of assassinating anybody who might become a powerful voice or make an effectual change or in society where people wake up, and probably assassinate anybody, like President John Kennedy and so many others. There's a long list of people who have been assassinated so far, trying to get the truth out. It's a little concerning. All right, back to this. War declarations out of the Phoenix Journal, page 95, only reading my highlighted portions. This material is not copyrighted. I could read it all if I want to, long as I give credit where credit is due. President Ronald Reagan against Grenada and Bush against Panama took place without congressional declaration of war. Under these circumstances, Bush and his associates, particularly Secretary of Defense Richard Cheney and Chief of Staff Colin Powell, need to have constant supply of horror and terror stories. We've been going over this stuff here in these magazines, exposing all this stuff. The front and the home front. Stop Saddam Hussein. So I'm reading the Phoenix Journal. And so the people in charge of our government, the puppets, controlled by the Zionists, Illuminati, secret society types, apparently into Satanism and some evil religion, bent on world domination, and finding themselves in a situation where they don't need so many people on planet Earth and are bent on depopulating the planet. Even in the news today, they're reinforcing legislation, passing some more laws, that it'll be a crime to resist the vaccine that they're going to want everyone to take. So we all must voluntarily go down to the local pharmacy or hospital. It'll all be computerized, and let them inject whatever they want to in our bodies. Or it'll be a crime if you resist. And of course they deny they're dumping chemicals and using a HARP transmitter, says HARP right there, and other technologies with our cell phones and towers, electromagnetic radiation, which messes with our mitochondria, our receptors, our blood cells in our bodies, through our eyes. I didn't know this, but when we drink water and eat food, that is, according to some research, I've got more to do, but that equals 1/3 of the energy and food our bodies need to survive. 1/3. So if you're like me, you have to ask, Rick, what's the other 2/3 of energy and nutrient supplement that our body needs? The other 2/3. And that would be sunlight. Sunlight is waves. Waves go into your eye and charge up. Everybody knows that light is vitamin D. And the light goes into your eye, goes through your body, and your cells feed off of the light. 2/3 of your energy. So when they're painting the sky pasty white, they are reducing, to some degree, 2/3 of the energy that we all need. A lot of people know up there in Washington State, there's a problem with depression and illness because they get less sunlight. It's overcast a lot. So they're spraying all over the United States, and your mitochondria, look this up, Dr. Mercado, and many other authors, scientists involving this stuff, that light is extremely important to our health, vitamin D. A lot of people know that already. But with the sky spraying, my point is, somebody is messing with that nutrient, that energy, that full spectrum light we're supposed to get. And I believe it's intentional. I believe we're under attack. I believe they intend to attack Iran. 1981. They're putting troops into position today. All right, back to the Phoenix Journal. Well, it says it right here. They need horror and terror stories to keep the public in line out of Iraq, so that they can support going into Iraq in 1991, before that. Just interesting when you read a Phoenix Journal or any other book, you know, you should take some notes and go look it up. Get the supporting evidence, and it just takes you down the rabbit hole. It just gets worse and worse. Alright, especially Kuwait, with shoutings of rape, ravage, pillage, and plunder of the... So they were accusing Iraq on the first invasion of Iraq, and of course after 9/11, which Iraq had nothing to do with 9/11, everybody acknowledges that, but they invaded Iraq twice. And of course they had a lot of military teams and archaeologists, scientists making a beeline for the... it's amazing what you can discover, but for the museums and archaeological sites, they were looking for something. They were looking for evidence from some historic peoples, something from the past, something before the Great Flood. What are they looking for all over the world? Why did they invade Iraq after 9/11? And it's well documented that the troops and some professors and archaeologists, scientists, were making beelines for the pyramids and museums, and they've been doing it ever since. It comes out in the paper all the time. They're looking for something. Something biblical, something before the Great Flood. Can you imagine the worldwide flood must have really buried a lot of stuff? Now with satellites in space, they probably can see through the ground, like X-ray in your arm. If you broke your arm, they can probably X-ray the ground and see things. So something bigger is going on, and it involves depopulating the planet, poisoning us. It involves secret agents out of Israel who are bent on controlling the world with the Jewish utopia I just showed you with Robert Williams' book. There must be total and devastating propaganda and expressions of support from Americans, allies such as the British, Israeli, Egyptian, and Russian governments. So we all know about the hoopla going on now with Russia, and they're accusing President Donald Trump of communicating to him, and Russia apparently, they're saying, interfered with the USA elections, Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump. So whoever's doing this, going to bring about or brought about World War III, or what other major events that are looming in our near future. There's a lot of talk right now. I was watching on some videos today that scientific evidence says that the pole is shifting as we speak right this second. And later this summer it's going to make a big shift. And of course on italreadyhappened.com, equipment and troops are being moved all over the planet right now. It seems like they're trying to finish off Assad in Syria, take out Damascus. And it looks like they're getting troops and equipment and everything in place, 2017, to take out Iran. Been going on a while. So I go over these documents and books published over the last couple 100 years, 50 years ago. Maybe people will see, for by and large, they've been creating all kinds of distractions to keep people diverted, deceived. In preparation for their planned war against Iraq, even before the Iraq move into Kuwait, the British, Israeli, and Egyptian propaganda offices had begun a hard campaign to persuade Bush and the American Congress that Saddam Hussein was a reincarnated Hitler. That's what it says there. At the same time as King Hussein of Jordan and Saddam began it in March 1990 to appeal to Kuwait to comply with the OPEC quotas in anticipation of their fears of an Israeli attack planned for 1992. The British and Israeli propaganda offices began a counter-offensive. So we have offenses and counter-offenses going on today, 2017, March 5th, for our minds. And in the news, regular TV, they were talking about Assad, the president of Syria, of gassing his own people. On italreadyhappened.com, there's the exposing of equipment, masses of amount of equipment, and large ships being moved, even into the Gulf, even one being moved into the Chinese Sea by Japan. So everybody's posturing for this World War III. They're going to get everybody involved. A lot of death, apparently. All right, Secret Agreement, page 96. The British and Israelis, using not only their normal diplomatic and commercial offices, but also their religious and cultural connections, began to spread the report that there existed a secret agreement among the Jordanian, Iraqi, and Yemeni governments to dismember Saudi Arabia. So just so you know, where did this author get a lot of this material that I'm reading and I'm going to continue to read? He got it by an Israeli spy agent who defected. He got it from magazines that were published back in 1991. In 1980, The Spotlight. And many other sources. And as I uncover these sources, I will be ordering these documents and these books, and I will be reading them. Under this alleged secret agreement, Iraq would acquire all the oil resources in the Persian Gulf. So they had secret agreements. Iraq was deceived, just like the rest of us are being deceived now. People are afraid right now. All they want to do is the world to continue the way it's going. To keep their jobs, to keep their houses. But somebody's going to pop that bubble eventually, and the whole world's going to pop like a blown balloon with chaos and anarchy. It appears to be part of the plan. And I don't like to be talking like some of those alternate new fear-mongering sites. But I do think it would behoove anybody to stock up on some supplies. I mean, how are you going to have obtain water if something happens? Do you know how to go to the bathroom in an outhouse? How to build an outhouse? Do you need indoor plumbing? I realize people think they couldn't do it. But people did it before all these conveniences came into existence. What are you going to eat? Do you have any canned goods? A bag of rice and beans and stuff to last? Even if it's for a month or something, it's better than nothing. The last thing you want to do is be part of the riotous groups of people running through the streets, raping and killing people to find something to eat or drink. With that said, in my opinion, like the early days of America when we were fighting the Revolutionary War to get away from the enslavement of the British Kingdom, every American was required to own a rifle or gun. I think that should be the case today. Just so we can protect ourselves and our country and our family and our children. Alright, moving on. So they had a deal with Iraq that they would have all those oils. Apparently Kuwait back then wasn't agreeing to the fixed oil prices. So I'm sure that was irritating the money people of the world. So was Kuwait the real victim here? Or was it a part of the criminal? Planted by the British and with the aid of the Church of England, missionaries in the Middle East, and by Israel among the close-knit Zionist communities of the West, as well as through Zionist-dominated think tanks, this report was picked up and repeated by Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak and spread by the Egyptians through the Islamic world. So the backdoor deal for the Iraq to control all the oils, the people got the word out. Jordan's King Hussein, as the direct descendant of the Prophet Muhammad, would be installed as Sheriff of Mecca. Sharif, it's a religious thing like a priest. In Mecca and Medina, territories controlled by his grandfather before he was expelled by the Saudis. Yemen would obtain all territories along the Red Sea south of Mecca. So there were all these deals being made with the different leaders in Yemen and Iran and Iraq and Afghanistan and in Egypt and in Libya, etc., etc. They did that during the Crusades from 1000 to 1300 AD, 300 years. They would get the minority group, the people that were not in power, and said, hey, if you align yourself with us, this would be the Crusades out of the Vatican, the recruits from the King of England and Germany and Austria and Italy and Spain and all those countries in Europe would march across the northern shore, Greece and Turkey and Bosnia, to the north of the Mediterranean and come down the Middle East towards Jerusalem and take one castle at a time and kill all the inhabitants. And what they would do is whoever wasn't in power, the Sunnis or the Shiites, they would say, align yourself with us, and when we kill the Shiites, we'll put the Sunnis in charge. And there were 8 crusades, so the next crusade, let's say the Sunnis are in charge, so they would say to the Shiites, align yourself with the crusades, and we go down into Palestine, the land of Canaan, the whole Middle East, and we kill everybody and take over all the castles. After we do that, we'll put you in charge. So these Arabs were deceived, killing their own because of promises made, promises that weren't kept. Right now, apparently in the news, it already happened at .com and other speakers on other alternate news websites. There is some posturing going on right now on this World War III. Who's going to side with whom? Will it be the USA and Russia against China? Will it be China and the USA against Russia? Will it be China and Russia against the USA? And many of the other countries in between, Romania, Poland, England, Brazil, Japan. So apparently in the back doors right now, deals are being made, and the pawns in the game are shifting sides secretly, trying to be on the winning side. Which, as we all know, there's no winning side. The deception continues. Alright, moving on. The Iraqis saw themselves primarily as preparing for an Israeli attack on them in 1992, which they hoped to deter by developing further their own missiles and possibly acquiring nuclear warheads by that date. That kind of stuff was in this magazine, 1991. And other material I've been going over, including this guy's material, the Israeli secret spy, assassin, who comes out and tells all. And they tried to ban this book by way of deception. They also referred to the sinister propaganda, which appeared to be emanating from Kuwait and Egypt regarding the alleged plot to dismember Saudi Arabia. So if you look at Yahoo image site and look up Greater Israel, you'll see that Israel has plans to have a portion of Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Iraq, Syria. There's plans on being a much larger country than the little Israel. In 1946, it only had a little portion of the Palestinians' land. Now the Palestinians only have a little portion. And it's all about the emancipation of the Jews all over the world. The Jews have to be freed. I'm curious, freed from what? What are we talking about? Well, I guess if you go read this guy's book, and Professor Higger's book, you will see what they say about the rest of us is not very nice at all. Benjamin Netanyahu said in Fink's Bar, go look it up, don't believe me, that they're going to make us regret not wanting to be their slaves. The current Prime Minister. Alright, moving back to this Phoenix Journal. They also referred to the sinister propaganda which appeared to be emanating from Kuwait and Egypt regarding the alleged plot to dismember Saudi Arabia. Concessions from Moscow. Here we go with Russia. I've got a long lineup of videos I want to make on some very important material like what I'm doing right now. That's why I had to stop making them for a few days. There was a lot going up here in my head reading all this stuff. I said, oh my God, if people only knew. Concessions from Moscow. While the British and Israeli propaganda was gaining strength in the West, Iraqis sought and obtained an extraordinary concession from Moscow. After the Malta summit of President Bush and Gorbachev, the Jordanian and Iraqi governments protested bitterly in February 1990 to Moscow. Their complaint was that Gorbachev was taking actions by agreeing to the immigration of Soviet Jews exclusively to Israel. This is back in 1990. So all over the world they were moving Jews to Israel, called Aliyah. For thousands of years there's been something called diaspora, the dispersion of Jews all over the world. They weren't allowed to live in one unit. Apparently, as a unity, as a government, they were a threat to the world. So what's changed? Now they're all going back. They control the world, so they can go back. And the world is none the informed. People just don't know what's planned. They don't look at the Jewish utopia. They don't look at the protocols of Zion. They don't go buy this guy's book, which you can buy on Abe Used Books and other used book sites for $3.50 with free shipping. And those prices won't last. I notice when we get certain books out there, the prices escalate. I just want people to get the books and read them and share them with their friends. Alright, their complaint was that Gorbachev was taking actions by agreeing to the immigration of Soviet Jews exclusively to Israel. So they were exacerbating the problem. They were continuing to move more and more Jewish people from all over the world into Israel. They needed World War I and World War II to bring about this state of Israel. So everything is just going up and up and up and up and up, closer to this destruction of the world. The burning of the phoenix, just like that song in Eurovision, the Phoenix Rising, that's the song, with the words, "You can't stop us." If you watch the Emmys and the Grammys and the Super Bowl halftime shows and the grand opening of the Switzerland Tunnel and so much more, you can see the satanic rituals. Serpent being, reptilians, what's it got to do with gray aliens, Pleiadians, masters, watchers, archons? Everything, I believe. And I've been going over different books. After the Washington-Bush-Gorbachev summit meeting in June, and when the Iraqis showed Moscow the propaganda being spread by Britain, Israel, and Egypt regarding the alleged plot to dismember Saudi Arabia, Gorbachev was persuaded by the Soviet military to provide the Iraqis with the most advanced Soviet electronic countermeasures then existing in the world. Alright, some more here. Chapter 10 on the Phoenix Journal, Wednesday, October 1990. I'll show you what these things look like. The different chapters and pages. The Soviet military were themselves becoming alarmed about the British and Israeli plans. Remember, Israel claims, their Prime Minister Sharon, that they control the U.S. So they're using our country and our money And they've run up a bill, 30, 40 trillion or more, and they say that we owe it. Every child born today, it's said, owes $1 million before it gets out of the hospital. They don't have any intentions of relieving us of that burden of debt. That's why they want to microchip we the people in the United States and Europe and the world. These people, like the Jewish utopia says here, want to enslave the people of the world and bring about some kind of golden age. I've been going over the books. I've got many more to go. This one will be very telling. I've been reading it. By the Mossad officer, as it says right there in red. Alright, Israeli antics. The decisive factor leading to the unprecedented Soviet action was evidence gathered not only by the Jordanians and the Iraqis, but also by Soviet military personnel stationed in Iraq, that Israel was flying sorties over both Saudi and Syrian territories into Iraq, which the American AWACS planes certainly had detected. Yet neither the Americans nor the Syrians nor the Saudis were reporting these Israeli sorties. So Israel was attacking certain sites in these countries, but we the people here in the USA, unless we were reading newspapers like this that you can go find at some used book sites and get them for yourself, you'll read what was going on. This is exactly what happened at the bombing of the Iraq nuclear power plant previously. Total collusion, according to the Phoenix Journals. And I showed you, I went and found the newspaper, magazine, even the book here, and other materials. I look up what these people say in the Phoenix Journals. I don't just believe them. In fact, the Americans insisted that these Israeli flights did not show up on any AWACS radars. Of course it showed up on our military radar. We have the highest technology the world has ever known, even back then. Gorbachev approved the dispatch of the most advanced Soviet electronic countermeasures, the ECMs, to Iraq on condition that they would be manned by Soviet technicians and their use would be limited to protecting Iraq against Israeli preemptive strikes against Iraqi munitions installations. So we all know since 9/11, Iraq, Afghanistan, all those countries, all those towns and villages and water plants and sewer plants and manufacturing, fields of trees, olive trees, apricot trees, whatever they have over there. Their agricultural resources, everything has been destroyed. You can go look it up on Yahoo image site. Bombed buildings in the Middle East. And on each picture you see, there'll be a link to a website. It'll tell you the date, the building, the situation. And if you look at it for a few minutes, you're going to scratch your head and go, wow, they've been bombing everything to smithereens. This isn't just a bomb. Total cities are demolished. Towns. And most people in America are not aware of it. But you can go on Yahoo image site and see it. Download a bunch of those pictures, go blow them up and show them to your friends. Right on the back of them, each town, each country, each city. Total annihilation. Which reminds me of Venezuela, which has more oil and more gold than any other country in the whole world. That's how rich it is in resources. And the people are starving down there. So obviously another attempt to depopulate the area. Somebody doesn't want those people to be alive when they bring about this new paradigm, this new world order, this new age. And think about that. They're passing legislation in the news today. I was watching a video that it's going to be a crime to resist the vaccine. You won't be able to say no or ask what they want to stick in your body. When you know what their plans are, that doesn't sound too good. You look up and see the sky spraying, like I saw in Daytona Beach this weekend. Horrendous. Watch my video. However, the entrance of American forces in Saudi Arabia and their discovery that the United States was planning preemptive nuclear electromagnetic pulse, EMP, attacks on Iraq altered the Soviet decision to conceal the existence of the ECMs, the Soviet Electronic Countermeasures, the ECMs. And I'm only reading my highlighted portion. You can go free online, Phoenix Journals, number 20, page 98. Read this for yourself. Read it all. Print them out. Highlight. Get yourself a highlighter like I do. You don't have to search for stuff twice. Whatever just piques your interest and go. You get one of those oh my God moments. Yeah, highlight it. And look how many oh my God moments I got. Quite a bit. Reading this was astonishing. The spotlight. And the author has a sense of humor here. He says, and now little Sheilas, I guess Sheila's something like Australia for girls. And now little Sheilas, filled with your doubts, do you begin to see the picture emerging through the fog? Thereupon the Iraqis began testing the efficiency of the Soviet ECMs against the AWACS equipment. Wonder how many of us people here in the United States really want to see World War III come, want to see all the people in the Middle East murdered or shipped into our towns and cities and states, whether it's in Europe or even in the United States. I wonder how many they're shipping into Argentina, Chile, Brazil, where apparently a lot of the natives are dying. Somebody's trying to cause a lot of chaos and anarchy, it seems. After careful review, U.S. electronic experts concluded that the Soviets had developed a countermeasure which could nullify American equipment. The Pentagon was startled. Oops, they said, what about our secret strike? What about our war? What about the satellite and shuttle programs? What about our attack deadline of October 3rd? What about? And what about? This conclusion startled the Pentagon for two reasons. First, it was unknown that the Soviet Union had developed this capability, which also indicates that only you, the public, only we, people, don't know about all the other good stuffs the Russians have in space. Only reading my highlighted portions, I'm skipping a couple paragraphs. It says here, Bush hoped to prevail on Gorbachev to remove those ECMs or alternately, not to use them against American planes attacking Iraq from the sea. This is 1990. There was a plan. There is a plan. Albert Pike in 1880 wrote a letter to his friend Mazzini in Italy, saying there would be 3 world wars to bring about a new age. Albert Pike was a leading of the Freemasons, a secret society. And they're just one of the arms of the Zionist Illuminati types. These secret groups controlling the planet, wanting a Jewish utopia. And of course, not all Jewish people are in on this. A lot of them are not even Jewish. They're Khazarians. Up there by Russia, Ukraine, a whole country adopted the Jewish religion 600, 800 years ago. Some very barbaric, ruthless peoples back then. Moving on to this document, the Soviets replied that as Bush and Gorbachev had agreed at Malta and reaffirmed at the Washington summit, there must not be a local war between Israel and the Arabs in the Middle East, at least not until 1993. If such a war would take place, Gorbachev would be unable to carry out his planned reforms for the Soviet Union, and he might be forced to resign as president of the Soviet Union. All right, page 100, moving on. Severe blow to the cause this week. This was, of course, the most severe blow to the American plans to attack Iraq. Bush instructed the Pentagon to ascertain whether the forthcoming attack on Iraq could take place from some other route than the Persian Gulf. They wanted to go around the Russians. The suggestion was made that if Turkey and Syria could be persuaded to make their territories available for the overflight of the American planes, a successful penetration of Iraq airspace might take place, evading the Soviet ECMs, which appeared to be oriented only towards Saudi Arabia and the Persian Gulf. Secretary of State James Baker was ordered to proceed to Damascus. Remember, Damascus is under attack now, the last holdout in Syria. Seems like it's going to fall. And prophecy says when Damascus falls will be the beginning of Armageddon, World War III. What people don't know. And on Infowars.com, Alex Jones' show today, with Michael Knight, I believe, speaking, narrating. Apparently, a lot of people in the U.S. are wising up. And they're leaving the big cities. I think Chicago area last year lost 66,000 people. I think people are waking up. Something's coming. On September 13, to ascertain whether the Syrian government would cooperate in these overnight flights, and he found that for a price. So Assad sold out back then in 1990. And now they're trying to take him out in 2017 for the last 10 years. So you can't trust these people. These political people vying for this Jewish utopia, New Age, New World Order, will turn on anybody. Eventually, even if we won the war, our own troops would be destroyed by our own government. They can't have all those people alive. Even the police, even in the Protocols of Zion, it laughs at the Goyim, the Gentiles, who side with them to do this. They laugh and say, these people are so stupid to turn traitor on their own people. And they will be destroyed at the end of the day. They won't be allowed to flourish and live. Even the people who are traitor against us. Flying the planes, sky spraying chemicals in the sky right now, pilots. People who work in the hangars, people loading up the chemicals, people who know. They'll be destroyed at the end. The idiots. They sold us out. I wouldn't want to be their souls when they get to the other side of the veil, when their spirits go home. Assad could be bought, but of course it would not matter, and Assad knew it. The technology would cover the area from any directions just as efficiently as from any other. So if only cost Assad a few thousand citizens to be murdered. The Turkish government had already previously agreed to overflights. The Turkish government. Pay attention to this stuff when you watch the news and you hear these things that the puppets are saying. Again, the people in the media who are lying to us. Traitors. They know what they're doing. They're doing it for a lot of money, though. Guess they should feel good about that. Turn traitor against all the people. So you can have a fancy car and a condo and a high-rise building. All right. So the Turkish government had already previously agreed to overflights, even before the United States discovered the presence of Soviet ECMs in Iraq. So Iraq asked Russia for help when even Russian agents in Iraq saw the planes with their own eyes that the Israelis were attacking. So they put up an air defense radar system. If the Syrian government also agreed, it appeared the U.S. would have a very wide geographic area in which it could attack the Iraqis from the north and the west, either directly from Turkey or Syria, or even better, flying into Iranian territory to attack the Iraqis from the north and the east. So deals were made. Assuming the worst, however, Bush instructed Defense Secretary Cheney to inform the Senate Armed Services Committee on September 11th. Well, there's an ominous date. 9/11, back in 1990. That if the president so ordered, the U.S. would attack strategic targets inside Iraq, regardless of whether or not Soviet military or civilian advisors might be at the Iraqi sites. And I've been going over the topic of Zionism in the Encyclopedia Judaica. So there is no question in my mind, and I've made a lot of other videos on a lot of other books supporting the same information, including, as you can see, in the Spotlight newspaper, Washington, D.C., back in 1981, that this Zionist plan for a New World Order to take over all those countries has been underway for a couple hundred years easily. And according to my research in the Encyclopedia Judaica, it's been the desire of these certain Jewish people, not all Jewish people, for this national homeland, for taking over the world. Apparently they believe that's what God wants them to do. And the rest of us are really not humans. We're cattle. And we were created to be their slaves, according to the Jewish Utopia, Protocols of Zion, other books that I've been going over. All right. Highlighted portion here, I'm moving down the page 100. You can go online and find the Phoenix Journals. This is number 20, the Mossad Connection. I am reading this, and this particular Mossad agent is telling all. Anybody can go outside and see that they're spraying over your city today, in Europe, in the United States. HARP transmissions, you can see ripples in the chemicals dumped. Electromagnetic particles form ripples when you have electromagnetic waves. So they are attacking our mitochondria, our cells, our bodies, our pineal gland in our brain. We are under attack. The Israelis are in a frenzy, however, and wish to proceed at all cost. And whether or not a subtle standoff situation can be affirmed until the year 1993 is wholly speculative, for war is always caused by the least sane personage among the crowd. So we've seen what Pizzagate is about, and all the Satanism symbolism on TV and everywhere else. So we have to know, people have to know there's some very mentally disturbed people in control of our world. And they are desperate. They've spent a lot of years preparing for this new age and new world order. And they think the rest of us are just animals to be destroyed, cattle. And you have some real zingers in the insanity scope of hot-headed national leaders. The U.S. does not have the controlling power over Israel. Dear hearts, the Israeli Zionists control America, so be it. That's what it says here, as Prime Minister Sharon said. All right, moving on. Thursday, October 4th, 1990. Hanton. Today's watch. Hanton, present in light and in service. Salam. As we go through some of today's comments, I ask that you now watch events which spread out and would appear to bear no relationship one to another. Note the uprising in the Philippines, for it is going to backfire. Note a most important event, the building explosion in Paris. So how many bombs have been exploded in Paris since then? 1990? I think we just had one recently. Over there in the UK, over there in Germany, many in the United States. All this is allowing our governments to posture itself, to put itself in a defensive policing action against we the people. I think we the people are not the ones bombing buildings. The French people do not support the government's stance in Iraq. So they need to bomb the buildings and blame it on Iraqis. 911. And the French people are indeed independent in nature. There is a high-level foreign meeting this day in Mediterranean, and the explosion was a well-orchestrated Mossad attack. And I'm going to tell you, I'm reading this book by a defected Israeli agent by way of deception. Which will be blamed on Iraqi terrorists in order to bring the people into line. Says it right here, 1990. A lot of attention is being given to the Japanese lobby in the U.S. during these past few days. This is total distraction, for the Japanese have purchased much property in the USA. The Israelis own a lot of America, but you have purchased it for them. So we're donating like $90 billion to Israel. They turn around, they're buying our own land as investments. And then the money we gave Israel in the first place is part of the national debt, and they say we own it. We owe it. We individuals. We citizens. So this is what's been going on back then. Japan has supported your debt almost single-handedly, while you have totally supported all the Israel domestically and militarily. A lot of difference. So Japanese have been buying up our debt, bonds and whatever, to support the warmongering and New World Order takeover, which cost a lot of money. And all that's been done for the Zionist Illuminati-type secret societies. One of the arms, of course, would be the Freemasons, Rosicrucians, Knights of Columbus, Knights of Malta, witchcraft organizations, the Gay Agenda, the Rainbow Agenda, Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, Trilateral Commission, Council of Foreign Relations, Heritage Foundation, Ford Foundation, and I could sit here for a week and name them. Constance Coombe wrote that book, Beware of the Rainbow, and I've got other books that tell us to beware of the New Age. I've shown them in previous videos. I will be reading them and making videos on those books. I will do it as long as I can, hoping eventually people will get it, and maybe we can turn this around. So he says, Hanton, the author of the Phoenix Journals, why do I continue to speak of these things? Because your very planet revolves around whether or not you pay attention. See the truth and put a stop to what is transpiring. That's exactly why I make the videos. Why I don't go look up one thing and try to write one book in the last 13 years. I noticed there were a lot of authors who wrote a lot of books that had gone by the wayside. Those authors had died or been killed. So I saw the bigger thing for me to do was to read those books, try to determine what was the truth, and share the information. Revive those books. Get people to go online and find the used books. Or, I don't really trust the newer releases, new books, because I don't know if they've been filtered, you know. They want to take out stuff they don't want us to know. So the older the book, the original edition I can get, I feel better about it. I don't feel the author's material has been corrupted. That's just me. A little paranoia there, I guess. Just want to find the truth. Alright, ready here. Moving on. Keep in mind that which I told you yesterday, President Bush and Gorbachev made a formal agreement that a nuclear war must not be allowed in the Middle East until late 1992 or 1993. Only the Israelis want a nuclear war. And the Israelis apparently have nuclear weapons. Look up the Samson option. Believe it or not. And if the world tries to stop this Zionist New Age, New World Order, if the world tries to stop the destruction and murder of all the Gentiles, the non-Jews, they call goyim or goy cattle, then apparently Israel will release those nukes and take down the world's cities in a flaming inferno. Look it up. Don't believe me, please. Look up what Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, said in Fink's Bar. Look up what Prime Minister Sharon, when he said, "We control America." Look this stuff up. It's out there. The Israelis have made the most of the distractions to all but destroy the West Bank, and hardly any notice has been taken by the world. So a lot of the people all over the world are busy watching Modern Family, The Simpsons, and other shows, football, having birthday parties, not realizing that their brothers and sister humans are being murdered in other parts of the world. We need to pray to God for this to stop. And God does listen. That's why Rabbi Marvin Antelman wrote those 2 books to eliminate the opate, Volume 1, Volume 2. The opate means your belief in God. Because their witchcraft they use, they perform human sacrifices and all these other satanic rituals, but they don't want we the people to know that prayer works, talking to God works, and God could turn all this around in a second. All we have to do is ask. But so many people are denying God. Denying that they even have a soul or a spirit themselves. Saying that Jesus was a myth. There was some horrible material I read in the Encyclopedia Judaica about Jesus. And in the other ritual murders and all that in the Jewish Talmud information. That apparently they say Mary, Jesus' mother, was fathered or had relations with a German soldier to produce Jesus. Do you know what they call somebody from a situation like that? That Mary had cheated on her husband. They have some horrible stuff, they say. Look at the source. No notice has been shown by the U.S. Palestine is a sleeping giant. Dear ones, for the Zionist will push too far, and the Arab nation will rise in support, and it requires doing so with sticks and hatchets. Well, it didn't happen. It's not going to happen. They're taking all those Arabs and they're shipping them to small towns all across America and the world. And those people are not happy. You blame them for not being happy? Their cities and towns and relatives and children and wives have been bombed to smithereens for quite a few years. It says here, unless you people rise in a unified voice to stop the steamroller and be prepared to face the depression which will be dumped on you in reprisal. So if the people wake up and try to stop this, our banksters, controllers, Illuminati, Zionist, secret society types, high-level Freemasons, and other secret organizations will destroy our economy and make us suffer. It's a darned if you do and darned if you don't situation. But I believe in the power of God. I believe that Jesus did come, and I believe the powers that be in Israel way back then denied him, did not like his preaching to treat others how you want to be treated. They had more of a Jewish utopia in mind back then. So they had him crucified. And that comedian, Sarah Silverman, go look her up. Tall woman with dark hair comedian. And she says, yes, we killed Jesus. And if he comes back, we're going to kill him again. And I said to myself, Lord, does that lady not know what the second commandment is? Do not take the Lord's name in vain. And you read the Bible, denying God, and he will deny you. Denying Jesus. It's a complicated situation, but there's a simple solution for most of us. Believe in God. Trust in God. Don't be afraid. Speak up. Don't go along just to get along. I am plagued with rebuttals that Israel is not running your government. So a lot of people, when Hanton was publishing the Phoenix Journal, a lot of people were saying, Israel's not controlling our government. Even though most of us know, if you go look it up, it was in the mainstream news that Prime Minister Sharon and his Congress, in a heated argument, said that they control America. And that was recorded. And shortly after, he went into a coma. Somebody shut him up. They didn't want him to explain what he said. But you can look it up. I know not how to make you further see. I repeat that I most surely am not a bigot, nor anti-Jew. I am anti-Zionist. That's what Hampton says. That's what I say. I am anti-New Age and anti-New World Order. And I don't care what all those Hillary supporters that are doing now, the liberals, protesting, saying that it is a global world and they don't want President Donald Trump to put up that fence. These people know not what they do. Personally, I think the Mexican people that come to this country should come through here through legal means. And people who are illegal probably need to be get into the court system to be legal or get sent back home. Because I know that if I went to Mexico, and I've been there many times, and I stayed past my 7 or 10 days that you fill out the little card when you go to Mexico, to Cancun or Cozumel. You can't just stay. They'll throw you in prison. In any country all over the world, even Canada. So it's a useless argument. And of course we need the migrants from Mexico and the agricultural industries and all that. But I don't think that's what this argument's all about. I think it's meant to disrupt everybody, the Hegelian dialectic, to divide and conquer. They have to get people mad at other peoples. The gays against the straights, the women against the men, the rich against the poor, the blacks against the whites, America against the Arabs, America against the Mexicans, and so forth. Even over there in Europe, all those countries and neighbors have the same arguments going on. The people who control things are keeping that going. It says here, your entire foreign policy is totally dictated by alien interest. And I do not mean little gray aliens from the stars. That's what Hanton says, publisher of the Phoenix Journals. All right, moving on. Remember, this is the Phoenix Journals. You can go print this book out. You can read it on your computer. You don't have to print it out. You can save it on your computer and take some notes and look up and see if it's all true. Europe warned about Iraq. You know, we here in the USA, we see what's on TV, we see what's in newspapers and talk shows. We don't see a lot of the reality over there in Austria, Poland, Germany, France, England. Most of us don't have that kind of money. We can't just go over there and hang out, meet people, chit-chat. So it's a different world, but the propaganda and all of the deception is the same. So there's a lot of victims all over the world under the control of these puppet masters, and a lot of politicians who come up through the secret societies and Masonic and otherwise organizations. Once they prove themselves that they'll go along with the evil plan, however they want to rationalize that, then they get to be senators and representatives and police chiefs. They're not all. And espionage agents, that's what this guy explains thoroughly in this book. What you have to go through to get accepted to be an assassin for the Mossad or an agent. Would you kill people so that the Jews can take over the world? And of course, a lot of Jews are not aware of this. There's different sects of Jews. The Orthodox, the God-fearing Jews, they're not part of it. The Zionists and the Reformed, Kabbalistic Jewish people, who think that they are special people, divine people, with souls from the divine God, while the rest of us have souls from some demons. Crazy, you think? I read and report. Despite warnings from European allies, the military intervention might well trigger an anti-U.S. regional explosion in the Middle East. The Israeli lobby mobilized all its resources to drive the Bush administration into a shooting war with Iraq. Remember that this occurred in Iraq at the end of the congressional session and in the interim vacation where there would be no opposition. That reminds me of 1913, during Christmas vacation in the United States. A bunch of our politicians, Senator Hyde met at Jekyll Island off of the coast of Georgia, and established the Federal Reserve Bank, which is not federal, controlled by the Rockefellers, these Illuminati Zionist types. 1913, they took over our money supply. Once they did that, they control our politicians. They can loan themselves money that we owe. They can buy up all the agricultural lands and industries, buy weaponry, nuclears, and send them to Israel. If they exercise the Samson option, it would take down our major cities, and we will have paid for it. I guess you could call us some really stupid bumpkins for going along, and our politicians who are bought and paid for, traitors to our own country, apparently. There's a lot of books on this stuff. It's not me. Written about Woodrow Wilson, Roosevelt, all the deceptions out there. I've been going over the books. I've got the books. I'm going to go over the books. Despite the fact that hundreds of thousands of Westerners, including some 3,500 Americans, would be detained by the Iraqi government and would likely become victims of their own country's weapons in the event of an all-out war, the Israeli continued to work relentlessly behind the scenes to bring about this very happening. So you think Israel, the Zionists, these people who want a Jewish utopia, do you think they really care if there is a world war and our cities get nuked or there's an economic collapse and we all suffer? Apparently not. Although they oppose the recent Iraq takeover of Kuwait, of course, we'll never know the truth about that, other than apparently in this document, Kuwait wasn't cooperating with the oil prices that were regulated by OPEC. Most NATO leaders privately feel the U.S. strategy towards Arab countries has been twisted. So it says most leaders believe that. And where did the author Hanton and all that get this material? There are books out there, and magazines and newspapers that were telling the truth. People were reading this. A lot of insiders with some intelligence were reading these magazines in 1980 and 1990. Although they opposed the recent Iraq takeback of Kuwait, most NATO leaders privately feel the U.S. strategy towards Arab countries has been twisted and subverted by excessive Israeli influence in Washington. Remember, we have the Anti-Defamation League for the Jewish people, B'nai B'rith, and so many organizations controlling our country and uniting with each other. And this has been going on even according to the Encyclopedia Judaica for hundreds of years. Israeli influences in Washington. France, of course, has been the most outspoken on the subject. The concern among America's major European allies over the massive U.S. troop buildup in the Persian Gulf sprang partly from the recent revelations that the Mossad, Israeli secret agencies, Israeli Secret Service has long used disinformation and staged incidents to fuel tensions and hostilities between the U.S. and the Arab world. A lot of people are aware of that now. And I've got the books. Go watch my videos. If I got 500 hours and you watched an hour a day, it would take you a couple years, 2 years, to watch all my videos on these topics and these books I've read and gone over. Plenty of other people out there making good videos. And take notes. Don't believe everybody. Don't believe me. Like I said, go look up Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Fink's bar. Look up Prime Minister Sharon of Israel and him saying, "We control America." Go look up any one of the videos I've gone over, order the book and read it. It is obvious that if tensions are allowed to cool and the war be called off, you will lose your opportunity to attack without provocation. The Mossad will fix that, my friends. So the Mossad, the Israeli spies, will create bombings and events to keep everybody incited, stirred up, to believe the propaganda and lies. And if people get in their way, apparently they'll assassinate them. And nobody even knows the war is going on. There will be more incidents piled up one upon the other and laid to the Iraq terrorists to keep the pot boiling. That's why they did 9/11. Look at Webster Tarpley's Synthetic Terror. Judy Wood, 9/11, her book. I've got the books. I've shown them. The headlines about Iraq's poison gas, of course, in the news today, it was about Syria's poison gas. They're lying to us. Stirring the pot, keeping people in anger, supporting the war effort, not even knowing they're moving equipment, troops all around the U.S., circling us, FEMA camps and everything, even passing legislation to force us to have to take vaccines, that they can stick something in our bodies that we know not what it is. It'd be a crime if you resist. All right, the headlines about Iraqi poison gas. This is 1990s. Threat wasn't the first time the threat were used to incite American public opinion against the Arabs. Fake intelligence reports have come forth since 1960s. And again, you have a defector from Mossad who tells all. This is probably not the only book. This is one I found, one I ordered, one I'm reading. This is one I'm reading now too that's explosive. Atomic bomb secrets. There's the author's name on the bottom. I was watching a video and they were talking about this book. So what did I do? I went and ordered the book. I'm reading the book. I'm taking the time out. I want to know. Some people I know say, Rick, is this affecting you? Why don't you just go live your life and be happy? What do you care? They're murdering all the Arabs. And I'm thinking, I'm a spiritual being in this biological body. I believe in God. I believe in the 10 Commandments. What would God want me to do? What would God want any one of us to do? To worry about our own lives in today. To let other people die just for that. All right. So this author says he's plagued with rebuttals. He says he's not anti-Jew or a bigot. He's anti-Zionist, anti-New Age, anti-New World Order, anti-globalism. And globalism doesn't even make sense. I don't know about anybody else, but you know, if you have $1 million, do you keep it all in one bank? What if the bank collapses? No, you don't do that. You put 100,000 in a credit union, a couple hundred in this bank, or a couple hundred in that bank, and pick up some stocks, maybe buy a land investment. You diversify your portfolio. So if something does crash or burn, your other stuff will be the cushion. So we want a healthy United States. We want a healthy Canada. We want a healthy Mexico, a healthy Iraq, a healthy Poland, a healthy England, a healthy Germany. So if there was a big disaster in any country, other countries could come to the aid. This new globalization wants to make everything interdependent, so when they crash, the economic system, the banking system, everybody burns and crashes. Like the phoenix rising. They can take it all down in a flaming inferno. And that's the plan. Despite Europe warned about Iraq, despite warnings from European allies that military intervention might well trigger an anti-US regional explosion in the Middle East, the Israeli lobby mobilized all its resources to drive the Bush administration into a shooting war with Iraq. I read that. Although they opposed the recent Iraq takeback of Kuwait, most NATO leaders privately feel the U.S. strategy towards Arab countries has been twisted. I read that. And it says here, it was obvious that if tensions were allowed to cool, Israel would lose its opportunity. So it has to go while it has the people riled up and supporting it with some kind of terrorist event and blaming it on the Iraqis. And of course I read that the headlines about Iraq poison gas threat wasn't the first time this kind of threat was used, and they're using that to incite the American people today about Syria and its President Assad. It was on the news today while I was watching TV. Fake intelligence reports have come forth since 1960s. Alright, now I'm back to where I was. False reports. In the 1960s, the Mossad, Israeli secret agents, sent fabricated intelligence reports to Washington warning that Egypt and Syria were building a massive arsenal with nerve gas warheads. So they want to scare us and get people to support murdering and destroying all those towns and villages all over the Middle East. Those poor people. And, you know, it's going to come back and bite us. They're going to do it here in the USA and Europe. We had better wake up. The purpose was to justify a series of assassinations. Mossad operatives killed more than a dozen European scientists and technicians working in the Middle Eastern countries. And that stuff, believe it or not, is in this book. That you can pick up for $3.50 on Abe Used Books. I did. There were a bunch of them for sale. They were banned, these books, in the U.S. They didn't want to publicize them. So apparently somebody thinks they're worthless. They don't want people to buy those books. In Washington, however, the Israeli disinformation was quickly leaked to the press as if it had been confirmed true. There was a wave of outrage against the Muslims. And Hollywood turned out a popular movie, The Odessa File, that persuaded millions. The Arabs and Nazi scientists were plotting to douse Israel with poison gas. Well, I've been reading the Encyclopedia Judaica, and for hundreds, if not thousands of years, the Jewish rabbi leadership people have been dying to have the Jewish utopia bring about their control over the world. Apparently, they want to convince us all that God chose them to do this. I might ask a question. Apparently, God brought about the diaspora 2,500 years ago, dispersed the Jews all over the world so they would not all be together. So if God did that, this Aliyah program of bringing all the Jews back to Israel by causing chaos and anarchy, economic destructions, and anti-Semitism in different countries all over the world intentionally, which is in the Encyclopedia Judaica, I've been going over it, can it be good for the rest of us if they all do get back there and they do control the world and they got nuclear weapons and they control the banking system? It can't be good for us. It's got to be the biggest threat to humanity. And a lot of Jews have gone out of their way trying to warn the rest of us. PhD Henry Mackau, Jewish author in Canada, who wrote the book, Illuminati, the Cult That Hijacked the World. Don't believe a word I say. Go buy Henry Mackau, PhD Jewish author's book, Illuminati, the Cult That Hijacked the World. I made a video on that. A couple of them. Believe him. He's a Jewish PhD. Smart guy. Go on the internet, look him up and see some of his shows, talk shows on YouTube, lecturing or interviewing with other people. Some of his essays on his own website. Henry Mackau, M-A-K-O-W. Jewish PhD author. Canada. A lot of Jewish people have come forth trying to warn us. Henry Ford, the automaker, stuck his neck out. Risked his whole auto empire trying to warn us. And so many other books I've gone over and read. And now I'm at the Phoenix Journals, just reading a tiny portion. So the Odessa File, a movie that come out of Hollywood, persuaded millions the Arabs and Nazi scientists were plotting to douse Israel with poison gas. And now, this very day, Israel is passing out gas masks to her citizens. 1991, 1992, Phoenix Journals. Free online, PDF, download them, print them out, highlight them, read them. We've got a couple people out there doing that. We could revive some of this information. It's not about me. If I got somebody to go off and do the Phoenix Journals and never watch another one of my videos, I'm happy. But let's get the material out there. Let's go buy these magazines. Find them. 1991. Insight. Spotlight. Heck, maybe we could save Iran and those millions of decent people from annihilation. I believe God would look kindly on that. So they were trying to fabricate intelligence reports, trying to scare the rest of us that Egypt and Syria were building a missile arsenal of nerve gas and warheads. The purpose was to justify a series of assassinations. Mossad operatives killed more than a dozen European scientists and technicians working in the Middle East. Thought occurs to me right now. Think about this. The last 100 years, 1913, when the Rothschilds, secret agents and controllers of Senator Hyde on Jekyll Island, created the Federal Reserve. Just imagine if they didn't take over our country 100 years ago, how wealthy and successful the United States would have been. All the families, dynasties, people who created some wealth, all those people would not have been destroyed. 2008, the economic stock market collapse. How many people's plans, their retirements, were canceled? And they had to decide to work another 5 or 10 years. Quite a few people that I know of. It was planned. And why is the stock market peaking right now? Unfathomable high levels. They could take that down tomorrow and destroy. Everybody has their money invested in that right now, a lot of people. Unaware of what's going on behind the scenes, the planned destruction. There was a wave of outrage against the Muslims because of this propaganda. And Hollywood turned out a popular movie, The Odessa File, that persuaded millions of Arabs and Nazi scientists were plotting to douse Israel with poison gas. And now, this very day, Israel is passing out gas masks to all her citizens. How many people believe it was actually going on that Egypt and Syria were planning to gas Israel? You have just sent a whole trainload of chemical weapons into the Middle East. It says, no one plans to use gas except Israel and the United States. You have just sent a whole trainload of weapons to the Middle East while telling the people that they were going to a distant South Sea island for disposal. That are lying to us. So these people back then, these researchers, way before my time, they knew what was going on. He was disguised, let's see, alright, I'm trying to finish where I was reading here. A whole load of chemicals were supposed to be going to be disposed, but they went to Israel. Would Israel gas her own population to fool the world? According to Hanton here, asking a question. Oh, indeed she would, and plans to do exactly that. So remember, even the people in Israel, the citizens, are disposable. The puppet masters are a much higher level than that, the Illuminati Zionist types. They want a new world order. Even in the state of Israel, the citizens are just another set of pawns in the game. Closely guarded intelligence files have been opened on both sides of the Iron Curtain in these recent months, back in 1991, giving new and brilliant lighting upon long hidden covert events and operations. So stuff was discovered. You now have proof in precise detail that the Mossad fabricated these incidences in order to drive a wedge between the U.S. and the world of Islam. And again, a Mossad agent told his side of the story. Henry Mackay, Ph.D., Jewish author in Canada, is telling his side of the story. Rabbi Marvin Antelman, leader of the Jewish Congress of the United States, told his side of the story, and many other books I have. You can go look up the Jewish Utopia book. The Ultimate World Order by an ex-USA Secret Service military man, Robert Williams. You know, what does it take for people to get it? So would Israel have a nuke go off in its own country to convince the world to attack and kill all the Arabs? And once we kill all the Arabs, all the Islamists, the Christians are already under attack. What about people down in Brazil? And, other religions and natives? Look what they're doing to people in Venezuela. That country has more gold and more oil than any country in the world, yet those people don't have $1 to go to the grocery store and buy some groceries. How sick is that? That's what we're dealing with. A serious sickness, mental disease by these elitists. They do want to depopulate the world. They do want to pass legislation, making it mandatory for you or me to report down to the hospital, whatever. And it's all computerized, I'm sure. Take a vaccine, probably get injected with a microchip. And the world's going to change with this New World Order, New Age. World enslavement. Read what Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said in Fink's Bar. So much more. Perhaps we can reconstruct a bit of the structure of Israeli disinformation. In 1960, the Mossad dispatched one of its operatives, an Austrian-born Dr. Otto Jekyll, to the Middle East. He was disguised as an ex-Nazi German scientist. He attempted to integrate himself with Egyptians and Syrian leaders. In 1961-1962, Israeli intelligence began feeding the CIA, the USA, and other U.S. agencies alarming reports warning that Egypt and Syria were secretly developing an ABC strike force. The abbreviation stood for Atomic Biological Chemical Warheads, allegedly being stockpiled by the Arab nations in order to annihilate Israel and achieve supremacy in the Middle East. I'm reading this, I'll be making a video. I'm reading this, I'll be making a video. I've been reading a few other books. I'll be making more videos. The Mossad, Israeli Secret Service, warned that these frightful weapons of mass destruction, remember 9/11? Iraq had nothing, were being developed by teams of Nazi scientists working for Arab governments. In reality, the so-called Nazi scientists cited in the Israeli intelligence reports was Dr. Joliffe, a disguised Mossad disinformation agent. And I'll end this video with one more little note. Is I've got these books. The Encyclopedia Judaica. Stack them up this high. Heavy books. And I've been going over anti-Semitism in these books. Zionism, the Kabbalah, and other topics. They are working towards the Jewish utopia. They have been infiltrating, attacking society, the secret society, apparent Satan-type, Lucifer-type people for hundreds, thousands of years. I'm reading it from the Encyclopedia Judaica. Go watch my videos. Listen to what I said, the pages I've shown. I'm going to continue doing that. I've only done one, I think, on the topic of Zionism. I've got to do another half a dozen 2-hour videos. I'm just looking for the truth. I want to avert World War III. I don't want to be enslaved, and I don't want other kids and other peoples to be murdered or enslaved. I don't think that should be a crime. I don't want the world to be a perverted, sick world. Sex with anybody, sex with animals, sex with inanimate objects, sex with robots. And I see some of the comments of people's videos out there. They laugh about it. They think it's all funny. Thank you for watching my video, Rick Miracle Reporting.